some here on time, and for us to start the process that we convened here around today. As you know, the Democracy Development Program primarily is concerned with the state of our democracy, and part of the ways in which we engage with that democracy is through the electoral process that occurs for some once every 4 years, if we talk about the national convention election, as well as once every 5 years, and once every 5 years for the local government elections. But what we also are aware of as partners and stakeholders in this space is that the electoral cycle in its totality doesn't stop and end at a 5-year period. There's other work that's happening in the interim and that we have to be cognizant of, especially as we are aware of the nature and state of the voter turnout in this country. Some of you have been deployed in the missions that we've deployed in the past in relation to observers, and we will have some appreciation for the type of work that the Electoral Commission itself undertakes in convening that many people towards an election that ensures a free and democratic South Africa. But of course, we think that there's a role for civil society to continue to play in this space, and as such, we have approached a number of donor partners to be able to expand the work that we're doing in relation to the election itself, and we would like for you to walk the journey with us. This is but one of the instances that will be calling upon you and the constituencies that you're a part of in order to be able to fulfill the mandate of ensuring that we have a free, credible electoral process. Election integrity is a significant theme for us, especially as Dr. Kariuki so eloquently put this year's theme for DDP is "My Vote Counts." Your vote can't count in the space where integrity is questionable. Your vote can't count in the instance that your ideas, your thoughts are not able to find a sort of meaning and expression in the electoral outcome of this country. And so we hope that you'll be willing to come along on the ride, as it were, as bumpy as it might be. And of course, we are in the process of striking up some important partnerships across the country, and we are appreciative of the stakeholders that have joined us in this space. I want to introduce them now, but I'm just building up some anticipation. Maybe you're wondering who it is that we have with us. Well, of course, this is the sort of process that we're convened around. Before I welcome you, when you're too comfortable, let me ask Dr. Kariuki to do an official welcome on behalf of the organization.
Thank you so much, Pamaka. Yeah, good morning, colleagues. Good to see you again. Most of you will have met recently. And those who have not seen you, my brother over there, it's good. By the way, it's his birthday.
It's 40th birthday.
40th birthday. So, yeah, I'm sure we will shower you with some waters and later.
Yeah, no, lunch is on me.
Yeah. Exactly, so that's sorted, and so very, very much appreciative of your time that you've taken time to come and be with us, and more importantly, our partner from clicking is still let's say Canada, represented by Professor Becky here. We thank you so much, sir. And Mrs. Woods, they came all the way, as Brian said, they walked their way here, and we are happy to have them here. And as Brian mentioned, it's a collaborative effort with the partners. So you represent different organizations and institutions, but as you can see also we have, this project is partly also funded by the Canadian Embassy. So in their absence also we recognize that they have a contribution that they may be towards strengthening democracy in this country and supporting. Good to see, and especially supporting the process of ensuring that civic space continues to be an active and kind of very, very much structured in a way that it provides the necessary oversight of such an important process like an election. So we're going to be having, I'm looking forward personally to a great time together here, but at the same time also to re-emphasize the fact that as civil society we need to be aware that what we're just doing here today is one of the many steps that we have to ensure that we exercise the maximum oversight that is needed over these elections. We already know and are aware it's a highly contested election, for all kinds of reasons. And we as a sector need to be at the forefront to ensuring that this election is free and fair. The temptation to do some things is very high. We need to be vigilant as a sector, at the same time also growing our capacities to do what we need to do best, as we're going to be talking about some of the plans that we've put in place to lead us to the elections, the partners that we've mobilized and continue to engage with that are going to support this process going forward. For some of you who are here a little bit, I think sometimes last month we talked about, for the first time as DDP, we're going to put one of the biggest election observation mission, and we have also added some electronic form of work that we're going to be doing to ensure just again we exercise the oversight that is needed to collectively. It might be DDP is the face of it, but we are here together. And so you're contributing to a very big process that is adding history to our DDP work. But at the same time, as a civil society sector, we anticipate that we'll have something credible in terms of supporting our assertions on the outcome of the election, supported by data. So, quite exciting journey ahead of us. It's a new territory that we are walking into as a DDP as far as that part of the work is concerned. But the good thing is that we're not walking alone, we're walking with you. And together, we're going to deliver this incredible oversight support that we want to show. And working with our partners like the Independent Electoral Commission here in the province and nationally, it's part of a complementary work that we enjoy in terms of the symbiotic relationship that we enjoy over the years. And lastly but not least, to say that as DDP, we are comforted that you've bought into the vision. And we can have all the money in the world. And money without support and partners means nothing. So the fact that you've chosen to walk with us in this journey, as Brian correctly framed it for us, is a gift to DDP, and we receive it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll ask for you to give a round of applause to certain people in the room, but just remember that for me it's standard practice. I'm joking. So I'd like to invite for Professor Ngomezulu as well as Usp from Canberra to just introduce themselves and perhaps a bit about the organization. And so they are coming on board as a implementing partner for the Democracy Dome program and the Canadian funding specific for this project, and perhaps a bit about their work currently, but also the work that they'll be doing in relation to this project in Gqeberha and the Eastern Cape more broadly.
No, thank you very much, Joman and Dr. and colleagues. Yeah, I know familiar, I can see familiar faces, including my enemy here.
Meaning that Prof is from Kaizer Chiefs.
Colleagues, thank you very much to DDP for bringing us together. I am originally from here, but I was deployed firstly in the Western Cape and then now in the Eastern Cape, because Joman and I can't be in the same space for security reasons. I was asked to lead a center called CANRAD, Center for the Advancement of Non-Racialism and Democracy, which is based at the Nelson Mandela University. Our dual mandate is to look at issues of democracy and then, of course, racism on the other. So that's basically the two things that we are primarily busy with. And that reflects in our publications, that also reflects in our other things that we do on the sideline, including this engagement work that we do. Because the center has two legs. One is the research leg, and then the other one is the engagement leg. And that is, in fact, when I had a chat with the leadership of DDP, that is Dr. Kariuki and Mr. Mzong, both the projects fell neatly in those categories. The research part, we are collaborating very well, and then of course the engagement part, we're also collaborating very well. So it became easier. It was a seamless engagement that happened between the two institutions. Because one of the things that I noticed when I arrived at the center was that it was predominantly inward-looking, and I spent a lot of time with CSP. CSP is my boss, because I can't move without her making sure that everything is okay. So one of the things I realized was that the center was inward-looking in the sense that it didn't have footprints in other parts of the country and also outside of this country. So then what I started off doing then was to have discussions with the like-minded people, and that is where then Dr. Kariuki and his team came in, because the work that DDP does on democracy and the work that we do are exactly the same, and then also in terms of community engagement, capacitating the youth, capacitating communities, it fell neatly. So that is why then we're having this good working relationship. It's been a short time, but we've been able to achieve more than what other organizations have achieved in 10, 20 years. So it's working very well. So when Dr. Kariuki approached us then about the possibility of us collaborating on this project, we were excited, partly because some of you will know that I'm notorious for keeping politicians busy, especially now during the elections. So it became easy then to say, okay, let's take the anger that we have against politicians and channel it to something good. Yeah, then that is how the two institutions then came together to say, let us do something tangible in this election. Because truth be told, our politicians are not doing justice to this country. Because there is no political education at any level, from the branch level all the way up. That is why we get surprised that when they go to parliament and they start doing the kinds of things they do. It's because they themselves are not properly trained, properly capacitated. So then when these institutions came together, then part of our job is to try and do the job that politicians are supposed to have done. But then we're doing it on the sideline, of course, using the spaces that we have. So I would say that this is in a nutshell what we have been doing. For this particular project, in our discussion with the DDP, the understanding is that we are going to be capacitating election observers from both ends. That is here in KwaZulu-Natal through DDP, and then also in the Eastern Cape through CANRA. So there are people who are going to be trained as observers here and then that side. And then secondly, we'll also be roping in people from the students from the journalism departments or media studies department, so that at least not only do they get armed on the theory part, but they also know from a practical point of view some things like that. And I must say, Dr. Kariuki, that when I met the head of department of the media studies, she was ecstatic. Yeah, she was excited, saying that this is the first ever opportunity their students have been exposed to. Wow. So then I ended up, in fact, saying, because initially I had indicated to her that we need at least 5 journalism students. But because of the excitement, I then extended the invitation for her to provide me with also 5 students who will join the observer team. So that is working well. And then the other unit that we work closely with is the Department of History and Political Science, based in the humanities. And our contact person is Professor Breakfast. He always jokes about his surname, because people tease him. What kind of a surname is it? Breakfast. Yeah, but that is his surname. So when I closed with him, and I said to him then, he must coordinate, so it gives us at least 10 students who are doing political science, so that they join the team. So that one is done and dusted. So at least, because one of our mandates as a center is to work through all faculties in the university, including engineering, commerce, and all of that. So we try to bring them as many as possible. So this has come at the right time in terms of also assisting us widening the horizon, as it were. So it's working well. Then others, of course, as per the mandate we're given, are from different communities, radio stations, and then NGOs. So now we're still going to be coming here next week. It's busy with facilitating. Yeah, so then what is happening? So I would say, colleagues, I'm excited as an individual. We are excited as with the CSP. We call it CSP. Her name is Bui Swasco. Yeah, but then I call it CSP, and then the interns call it Mom B. Yeah, so that's how it is. I don't know why we can't call it the name. Or the other label, she's the chief editor. like Jomani, I gave Jomani the name is his henchman. Because when you want to get him in undercover, you bring him in. So without further ado, colleagues, I'll end there. If there is a need for questions during lifetime, we can do it. But in a nutshell, that's the way that we do. And I can hand over to Mrs. Speaker.
Good morning, everyone. This is Cicely, Chief Editor at Kenrad. I'm working with Prof. Bekitenga. Yes, but he's being called Prof. He's so popular because of these interviews with the politicians, you know. We are doing the work for the community. We work so much with the communities, you know, at Kenrad. As you know, the name Kenrad, it's the center for the advancement of non-racialism and democracy. Yes, so now we've got this relationship with DDP doing the same way. We are here then to advance what we are popular for. So that is all for me. Prof has explained everything. We are here to take this democracy work forward. Yes, and we are looking forward to the elections. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very floating is over. I'm not waiting at the look back. I just want
Austerity measures.
No, so what I was saying, okay. So I'm not waiting. I just wanted Prof to see that his gift didn't go to waste. I made sure to everyone. Thank you very much. I think given that insight that we have in relation to the work that we collaboratively doing with Kenrad, I'd then also like to ask each of you to introduce yourselves and the work that you do in the various communities and constituencies. As it relates to the Election Observer Mission, Prof and to speed, just so you're aware, the colleagues that we have in the room are people that we work on other projects. So our community and constituency helps us to make many legs of our organization function, because currently about 5 now in the organization, and only probably about 2 of us who are doing project work. So we need an extended arm of DDP in various constituencies and communities, and so we highly value the cooperation. Perhaps what you'll hear is they've worked with us on processes such as migration, they've worked with us on processes such as civic education in various communities, they've done their own interventions insofar as developing impacts of Agiona. You just heard his daughters this morning, so we really appreciate when these testimonials come through. What the Prof you appreciate as an executive director of a non-profit, which is less than just a speaking, who are feeling anecdotally when I say no, what my name is, but I'm a fan. We are celebrating this man. So we got about Madonna, no one put Madonna. So put Madonna, open Madonna, I sit with Madonna, now for the pen, I was 6.
Sanibona, Sipho Madlala lo. Ngwakamaphutha ngirepresenta GSF kodwa ngumuntu ngiyajabula iyalazi insizwa ubantu bami. Ngi-passionate about helping people. Ngibe nama-contracts athize ngiqasha abantu, but u-DDP masifika lo isikhathi esingeni ngibe passionate ukuthi ngiqasha abantu laba aba in need for whatever they can get it. So umuntu nje passionate nabantu ukuthi ngicela masiza nazi umuntu wabantu uyabamba nje ngabe Yes, Colin Penwell, who hosts a podcast on YouTube, he started his own religion, so he ends up going to drive his own church.
nice. Yeah. Yeah. Ngibona ukuthi siyarecorda nje mhlawumbe ungaphakamisha eze khona yabona usuthethe isipresident officer lapha so uyo-observe benabuze la siyabona bengamqamuli njalo okay hayi nokhululeka yebo yabona nje ibhakane yakusungula nokusuku hayi khululeka it's fine kanti uyabo vele so siyiphethe kodwa i-standard izokuya la
yeah, and the Somali Holland, I went for the organization called Africa United. Basically, we deal with human rights education and trying to enhance social cohesion in Panatin. But also today I'm representing in the Language Forum, which is I would say it's my baby. It's from in the Language Corner we deal with development. We don't have specific programs that are in place, but most of our programs are tailor-made, addressing the current issues that we see in the community. So there's a lot that we do, but we're mostly focusing on development.
Thank you very much, Clara. Abantu abathunyiwe asibatheni. Zamantunga.
Someone just to check if everyone understands Zoom, because sometimes we work with Abadu and we assume that everyone in the room speaks Zoom. So I'm just checking. Am I checking? Yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2, check. It's French.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, cool. Igama lami uZamantunga. Wakamtunga, ngikamuna kwindawo okuthiwa iNtuzuma. Ilokishi lami lendala likhona lapho phakathi eNtuzuma kuthiwa i-B5. Yeah, so ngiqhamuka kwi-organization okuthiwa i-Language Forum, so I work with Umhlaba. Njengoba seshiwo sithetha kakhulu with development and into is I get distracted easily. So yeah, sisebenza nabantu abasha, but the organization is more of a bridge between abantu abasha and information. So that's what we do. We bring in information. So then they put abantu abasha, they don't participate in doing it in the community. Since I'm they must be active in things that touch more in so yeah, in a nutshell it's that. So I cannot mention a program we have not like campaigns, workshops, trainings, skill sharing and all of that, but bang Falanda orange and to like that bridge between Abasha and the information. Hence we're here with DDP.
Thank you. Welcome, Zamantunga. Sorry, forward. There was a period when she was farming as well. There was a period when she was farming as well, you know, so she's gone through a lot. 1 second, sorry. We get distracted now. So we'll skip on us, Sis Lindy, and then Isabella, sorry.
Morning. So I come from a small town under Vernon, which is 2 miles down. That's where I'm from, the Inanda side. So for me,
so you're from Amotana School. We said that's enough.
Hey, what's up?
So, yeah.
So,
So for me, as a political science student, so after varsity, I was concerned by the lack of participation of abantu abasha in the decision-making process. So I decided to take the knowledge and expertise that I learned from Escole, and then I developed my own voting manual. So it's called the Manual for First-Time Voters that teaches first-time voters directly how to vote. So it speaks about what is democracy, it speaks about parliaments, the different arms of government, it speaks about all those things, and then it also speaks about how do you cast your vote. And it's authored in a simplified manner for easy understanding. So my organization, Luhande, works with our high scholars, so you're 16 to 18 years of age, that's what we do. Thank you.
thank you very much, Sabila.
Sanibonani. Igama lami nguMkhumbu wabaphakathi, ngihlala eSpringbok Hills from Ward 90. I-NPO yethu is peace building team yase Ward 90. I also sit with the EC yakhona. I-NPO yethu ila social cohesion, we also implement empowerment to abahlali bakhona eSpringbok. Mostly mina, I'm more passionate about people with uniqueness, because I'm a parent of a unique child, a child with autism. So my passion is more there, or ngikwenza okunye. And then sisebenza nabantu abahlukene emodeni, siyindawo ene-informal nabahlali laba abahlala what we have been doing, we have tried to implement into ezosiza iy'ngane from grade 10 to 11, 12, abanama subjects especially pure maths and science. We have also allocated isikole esizosebenzisa leyo program ewodini. We are also working on the market of awareness yabantu abanama disabilities, how they're being handled ema-clinic nasey'bhedlela. We also doing drug awareness, especially with community yethu since siney'ngane eqhamuka Uganda, which they're more into drugs, but they are still in primary. So we're trying to buyisa leso sithunzi sabo. I think ngizomana kuba manje, etc. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sabo.
Sanibonani.
Yeah.
Igama lami nguNomthandazo Makazama. Sanibonani. Igama lami nguNomthandazo Makazama, but lesikhathi esiningi bangibiza ngokuthi ngisuka eSpringbok ku-Ward 99, ngingu-chairperson wama-CSOs akhona. CSOs, which stand for Civil Society Organization. I-organization yethu size safika lapho si-register khona, thanks to DDP, because sasingenayo wamqondo ukuthi funa ukuthi ngama-organizations, ukuthi sivula-organizations, siwa-register kanjani, singekho clean. But size safika to the point where we have also registered with our organization, which was CSO. So since we fully registered
that igama le-NPO yethu i-ECP, Civil Migration Peace Builders. So yeah, thanks to DDP because we couldn't do that. And so i-organization yethu yenza, i-organization yethu isebenza njengoba civil and migration sisebenzisana, sisebenza nama-locals nama-non-locals, senza i-integration. Yeah. So sinama events besike siwenza. Seyirun, I think we run for 3 years. So sinama events besike siwenza. Asikwazi ukwenza events ngaphandle, event ngaphandle kwe-non-local. Each and every event esiyenzayo there is non-local and non-locals. So besenza sinama-sports, kuba ama-sports kube nje izinto yonke event eyenza ukuthi ehlanganisa abantu. Yonke event ehlanganisa abantu. So yeah, iphinde ngibe u-business woman, ngiyithandela nje imali. Why ngithanda ukukhuluma nomuntu, nje ngiyathanda njengoba lokhu bechaza ayithandela abantu. Ngiyathanda ngifike udabukisa ngokuzo ukuthi ngibingelele kuzo ukuthi kwenze njani. Ngiyaqala ngifike emalini.
Kunjani? Why is it? Sinamalini.
Buze nje ukuthi awonke kahle kanjalo ukuthi ngiyamthanda umuntu, ngiyathanda nje ukukhuluma nomuntu. So ngisendaweni e-right yokuthi ngisebenza ngabantu, ngisebenzela i-community ngoba vele umuntu ngithanda abantu. Ayingama lapho etc.
Thank you very much. Siyabonga. Sicela ukuthi uBhutwili azintroduce naye, the man behind the camera. Thank you very much for the different introductions of the different stakeholders in the room. Again, we are going to be talking about this specific timeline with Manzuza's help in understanding what our role will be in that space. But we are working in a very tight space of time. We won't complain like certain people have. We recognize we've been at the game for so long, we know the timelines and the way in which they work. We've also read up somewhat in terms of the amendments to the Electoral Act and whatever. So we understand that there are certain implications as it relates to that. Our purpose as part of convening today is to get to grasp with where we are in the electoral cycle and then figuring out what the next steps ought to be in fulfilling our role as a civil society actor in the space of election integrity. I'll now hand over for the next hour to Manzuza to take us through her presentation. She'll do an introduction first. So she'll introduce herself in 2 ways. One is taking off the hat of the IEC, and then of course, as part of the expanded staff of the IEC towards the election, to tell us what her role is and perhaps then take us through the presentation that I've asked her to prepare. She was also, just to let you know, she was also at our program last week at a TVET college that we were able to work with students on a different project. Tabi, they were there for the SGI Activating Community Voices project. And so this specific one, we liked her presentation so much that I as an plan. So yeah, but I wanted to acting Namuti, I will show my performance at Blazer. We endorse her performance.
Good morning, everyone. Usually, yes, that is my married surname. Introduce around the table. Most of you are in civil society space. Uno Balaji.
eThekwini Metro under the District 8 Council. Yes, I'm representing the civil society as a Secretary General. And originally I'm from Munglas. That is where my CBO is, that's the government of HIV and AIDS. However, because the spectrum is quite broad, if you look into Umuntu as a person, what we don't do is only inclusiveness, but we also empower people to understand who you are, what you stand for, and what you need to achieve going forward. And space city is a little bit broad. We look into facilitation, we look into empowerment, we look into ensuring which there's adherent in terms of dealing with whatever chronic diseases that they have. That is basically me in a nutshell, dealing with society. Me again, busy and civil society, ngoba ngizwe inkulu, ngiyakwazi ukuthi meke phakathi komphakathi ingekho i-microphone yabona ngikhulume ngizwakala. Then kwasekuqhamuka-ke u-IEC wathi because we see ukuthi there's a potential in you ukuthi ungakwazi ukumemeza. As outreach, expansion stuff like we did mention earlier, a municipal outreach coordinator for eThekwini Metro dealing with the central region. La esihamba khona isilekelela in terms of who is IEC, what is their mandate, and what is the expectation. Njoba namhlanje ke sizile engibemile uBrian izolo like he normally does.
Yeah. Thanks you guys.
It never gives me adequate time for me to prepare myself.
Some 17.
I am duty bound. Yes, I avail myself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we're basically here to unpack in timetable national and provincial elections. I'm sure abaningi bethu sebeke bayifunda i-gazette. Ayithi sama observers around the table. When we observe again, you cannot observe something that you do not know or you do not understand. Good. So, I'm trying to ensure that the song on the platform because no, we're trying to my extension staff, people like myself, the IEC, we are trying to ensure that it's free and fair. And it's people that we know, that you work with. And within the field, we've got the best interest at heart for our own country. So it is crucial as capacitator.
That's why so far it was in our groups and what before.
So ngekathi ngiyofaka i-drone kufanele libe selifundile volume 704 wegazette that articulates ama-amendments lawa esiwa-endosayo ukuthi maphi. Remember ukuthi this is the first time of its own kind la esizoba khona nama-independent going to a national assembly. Kona it's not something ukuthi is too technical, which have not been there. It's just that there's an introduction of a third ballot. You're not getting a third ballot, it's causing a little bit of a confusion. However, it's nothing. I appreciate it around the table. There's a lot of youth-led organization leaders. But that is where the shortfall is. Youth are registered, but they don't vote. And we sit back and complain to say, IEC this, political A, party that. But we have the power to execute. Once we forgot that opportunity, if democracy was fought for, and this in our mind, in this 7th democracy dispensation of the NPE, we have the opportunity to make things work. So sinalama observers akhona today. I'm hopeful when we deliberate, I'm not too sure of the scope of work. Brian Alazana Jane, but we are more than agenda. This is the timetable. Before we even start on the timetable itself, it will be crucial for me to understand, for us, what do we know about the NPE 2024 that we're going into? So that when we engage in on the timetable, we are all on the same wavelength. Tisha,
so colleagues, she's asking you directly now. What is it that you understand about the national and provincial elections that we're going into now? What are some of the things that stand out for you? What are the things that you're aware of as it relates to this election? You know, when it comes to the national provincial elections. Yes, sir.
Government wethu political party isaniwa the exposure. Lezo zinto siyithola kuphela kuma social media nakulezi zinto ezincane. Uyabo umalume wami chief banibani lapha amakhutha kuyona le political party. Abantu bebenikwe 1200 ukuthi bayodlala lapha e-stadium. I so wish ngoba mina kuwa 67 no what 94 no what 93 ngizokwenza sure ukuthi amavoti aphuma lapho ngempela alright, because I have individuals I need. Angithandi ukuthi abantu babone besafanisha anymore. So, iyona into ngiyazi u-IEC ngewulelele kakhulu lapho. It won't help that much u-IEC i-exposure yalamaqembu atshengisa ukuthi enough is enough. Ngeke ngomention, you know. Kodwa lento esisaphinde senziwa i-governing party i-wrong. Kade ngikutshela ngale yase-Pretoria, meeting you guys in Pretoria. I know that for a fact. There was a person there, was a bodyguard who's my relation. So, you're wrong.
Okay. Initial elections, you've noted some wrongdoings made.
Yeah.
And do you know the protocol that you need to follow if there are any objections? Ngoba yiyo lento lethi manje fanele silungise ukuthi if there are concerns asazi ukuthi khona ama protocols. Follow that ngoba ukhala outside the scope of work is not assist us, and it will not bring the remedy that we want to see. So izinto lesiyibonile siyayicorrect kodwa noma singezi ukuzocorrecta izinto ke lezi namhlanje
just information.
Information ukuthi ziyacorrecteka izinto so long as you observe. Yes. And sibonile samsa kumanisi
izinto observer siyama elections. Angikho sure namhlanje kuma elections previous umuntu amashini engawavulile ngale ndlela avule ngayo manje. But for the first time okokuqala ngizwa i-IEC fanele submit ama-signatures ukuze iqembu qualify ukuthi lingene kwi-ballot noma libe ma-elections. Angazi ukuthi line-inform yokuthi beze befike lapho, but mhlawumbe iyasebenza basazositshela after ama-election ukuthi la maqembu befuna ngangene agcina angena ngakampela yini. But also, I think our elections are very interesting. If ubukanje izinto ngendlela ezenzeka ngayo kwi-country yethu nangendlela abantu already kubonakala ngathi
They had enough.
sebekhathele
Yeah.
yabo. But kade bakhathala and they've been deciding not to vote. Hopefully this time around they will vote and they will vote right. Yabo. Bevote ngendlela bakhathele It's a bio vote.
Yes.
But bavote ngendlela bakhathele. And also, I think
Before we go back, it's about Kalam Cattle of 2019.
yes,
Cattle now 2018, now 2017, now 2016.
sebekhathele kakhulu.
Kodwa mina ngo-2019 lapha shut down everything.
Okay,
So, enye into umuntu alokhu observe mhlawumbe nasemphakathini esihlala kuyona, as much as kuyenzeka naseminyakeni edlule ukuthi towards ama-elections there will be ama-protest amaningi, but this time around umuntu ubona ama-protest engekho maningi kangako, but i-service delivery ibonakala i-short ngolunye uhlobo, ibonakala ingekho nhlobo. Yabo, ekuqaleni bebethi abantu uma bebona i-service delivery ingekho ba-protest. Right now ngathi abantu sebekhathele, sebevele bethi ayisongonane evotini. Yabo, so angazi noma ukukhula kwabantu komqondo or sebekhathele kulokho beyoyijulisa beqhubela manje ingekho into ezokwenzeka emva kwalokho. So that's why ngathi mhlawumbe sizobona ama-elections ahlukile esingakaze thina esisabancane singakaze siwabone ngoba sasingaswabonanga ngawo-1994 mhlawumbe angenelangomama.
Beautiful. Do we have any other conclusions this time? Kune nama-parties, kune-party yona efuna uku-involve abefundisi. Mina bengingakazi like into enepolitics isikhathi esiningi ayithandi uku-involve abantu abakholwayo. But now I was surprised ukuthi the party even involve abafundisi.
And they are there.
Because abafundisi abekho involved ezepolitiki kodwa yona and bengibuka izanganezi ezicobezelayo zezishayinayo because of this and that. Yabo. So
Kufanele basathathe umhlaba besithengise ibuko.
So yeah, so the basho lethi sisilokho ukuthi uthebo angikaze ngile noma uzovota ku-involve nabefundisi nama-software into enjalo. So kwenzekani manje? But yeah, kunjalo sebenzekile.
Can I add on something?
Ngizwini.
Can I add on something?
Okay.
Mina, yeah, political party enter. Organize abanye bafowethu. Mhlambe sasiba kwakunetha. Mhlawumbe ngimention kwakunetha. Ngamakhutha. Mhlambe sasiba 1,200. Abantu bakhipha imali emaphaketheni. Sadla inyama yaseblafu.
Yeah.
Kanti
Bakhipha i-T-bone steak. Inyama yaseblafu.
Great. Levels,
Yeah. Iy'ngane zadla ama-sausage roll. Well,
So, indeed, I use public transport So, sounds eavesdropping. And they were expressing, they were just talking about the elections, I don't know how it came up. But then, the ARV is that in terms of normal ballots, they were very concerned as to, there was even this thing, it was a lot of confusion there. So, and that's not the first time I've heard about they express some concerns about yes, about for Dagatatu. And as we know, as much as we all border, it's about how you place your eggs also, because some are spoiled ballots, so on and so forth. So it would be very painful to see as a man who with Baham, because of the technicalities, it's a shinky, it's on who's the voter, that the voter not being counted. So I think that's the concern for me, is that about the whole picture, but
So I have a question here. What am I question, Siswa?
Akavula. Azozavulwe nini? Counting station manje. Sesingekho voting station. So siyawavula, skipha lawa namagama siwalahlele eceleni. Bese siqede ukwalahla lawo, sesiyavula ama-envelopes wonke just to check ama-voting manje. So nje i-level of security yabantu bethu, they need to understand that ukuthi ayizofaka nje bayithathe. Fanele afake kuma-envelopes. To ensure that no one knows who voted for what, except himself. With that being said, I thank you. Any questions that may arise, I will only take them on the next coming day.
Cool, thank you very much. No, thank you very much, guys, colleagues, for your intentional listening as well. So just from my side then, what I wanted to be able to capture in this space is firstly, as I noted earlier, this is part of one of the processes for deployment of observers. So Joban Bodala and Mele, you're not complete, you're not representing the entirety of our observer mission. There are 3 different processes or recruitment stages for the observer mission. For DDP and CANRAD specifically, this is one of the recruitment stages where our training will start next week, on 19, on 20, the 19th, for our observers, the people, the constituency that you guys will bring in, which will total 50 for this stage of recruitment. On the 20th, we'll be training journalists, so you're not necessarily a part of that space. And then in Beja, we'll be doing the same thing the following week, where we'll have 50 observers, some of whom Prof has already indicated in terms of how they'll be constituted. And then the following day, we'll be training journalists from Beja as well. We also have other projects, including our core donor, the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, who is helping us as well for recruitment in terms of the observer process. I think we're getting 50 from there as well. So we're getting 50 from the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, and we're also getting, I think, 150 from one of our other projects. I've just forgotten which donor that is. The Constitutional Fund, the CF, yes. So 150 observers in that space. What's important to note specifically about those processes is whilst they might be running in parallel, they are all contributing to the bigger election observer mission of the Democracy Development Program in partnership with stakeholders such as CANRAD. And one of the things that have been important for us is to try and find ways and mechanisms to make this more accessible to as many people as possible. So whilst we might only be directly recruiting that 250 number of observers, we also have people who will be volunteering to be a part of the observer mission, and we will enable their participation in various many ways. That's not me, that's you, leadership. For those of us who have WhatsApp on our laptops, You know, sometimes we pretend we're working, but we're out here, we're chatting. So when we recruit, we recognize as an organization that there must be some level of assistance. We recognize that the day is long on the day of the mission itself. We also recognize that you guys are essentially volunteering. But we have been able to approach a number of donors, and they've been giving us a stipend for the purposes of the election day observation itself. That stipend will be given in 2 tranches. 50% will be given after the completion of the training, not on the day necessarily, but closer to the election day, so that you can have some money to give them out to stations but like, you know, but refreshments. If we take 6, manzi is very important because the day is long, gas visa, all of that. The IEC, the staff circle is collecting. Mama speaker, it's our first visit in Wood. So all of that. So you must make sure that before you go to the station, you eat and prepare yourself for the length of the day. If necessary, if there are breaks in between, make sure that you also encourage. So you, as people who are in this room, you are either form a bigger grouping of people that you lead or are a part of, and so it was important for you to be a part of this inception meeting. The inception meeting is you represent a specific constituency, and we would like for you to then spread the message and help us in the recruitment drive. Yes, we're asking directly for next week's recruitment, but there will be other spaces that we call upon you and ask you to do a little bit more in order to try and help us to get to that point. So it's important that we are cognizant of those things. I think for colleagues from SPIG in particular, 25 names have been submitted to me already. Please double check what because we'll take it as those 25 are coming next week, definitely. And if there are any people who have fallen away, please inform me before the end of this week, so that we can make sure that we make sure that our list is full by next week Tuesday. But ultimately, having said all of this, in terms of your contribution, what we're saying is, in order to try and make it more accessible and more innovative, we're also in the midst of developing a platform that will be okay, sure. Now, what about drug dealer? So it's very important. Yes, the app also has an offline functionality. So what that means, IAC, even though IAC, we've been able to get to a point where we form partnerships with stakeholders who are able to help us to create technologies that are efficient in terms of the way in which they function. So you might not have data or connectivity, because maybe load shedding in the area. The reason why I'm saying exclusive on data, so we told you this type and stuff. So that also goes in my data. So in doing so, what we're hoping to do is get as much information as instantly as possible. It doesn't help us to wait 5 days for your paper checklist to go to Electina. Even that process is cumbersome for some of you, because it means printer or photocopy and send, or scan and send, or give those in our office and give it to us as well. So we hope that by using the platform that we're going to be developing that's online, that's available on your phone, that you will be able to get the information to us as quickly as possible. The checklist remains the same in terms of the initial stuff that we're asking you to observe. If there are incidents that require for you to take pictures, to record, you will be enabled to do that as well. Presiding officers, deputy presiding officers, unless, but you can't take a picture of someone's ballot. You can't go behind them and go take pictures of someone's ballot. Please don't do that. you can't take a picture of the voters' roll because that's copyright infringement. So there are laws and legislation that prevent you from doing certain things. And this is not the training, this is not the final training. We'll teach you all, we'll have the whole day to take the 50 of you next week through a lot of this. So IEC, so near to 2 hours, 2.5 hours, wow. The rest of the day will be left to myself and I'll be dealing with you decisively. No, I'm joking. But ultimately, so it's there are circumstances that you've confronted in either being a part of an observer mission as an ordinary voter of this country, or even potentially even in the past as a party agent that you may have encountered. That's a space that you must try and troubleshoot as much as possible, so that SARS, what are the things that we need to be aware of, and what are the things that we need to be cognizant of as we observe this year's election, but that when we train next week, that we need to be aware of as well, so that but agent to your observer. What are you observing if you're not sure about how the processes themselves are meant to go? And so that's going to be the bulk of that training. Should any further resources be available, we will try as much as possible to convene you again in a different space. The IEC does offer training for election observers, but usually they only invite the institutions that have been accredited. They don't invite the observers themselves. The way in which the accreditation process happens is that they trust us to be able to relay the information to our observers that we've recruited. So we might be invited to an IC gathering, for instance, where only 30 organizations are present. Sometimes Bashaw is Kati because the timetable is quite compacted, but also in terms of capacity, because they have deployed all of the various staff that they've hired to different spaces, they don't always have the capacity to train us. I think it's under Dr. Shwane's portfolio in relation to election observers specifically. And tomorrow, or something like that, doing some intervention. That's a provincial one. So there are various things happening, and we hope that you can be able to walk the journey and path with us. Part of what we're also asking you to do is, if you're going to be part of the counting process, you need to inform us before election day itself. If we want to who's excited 12 episodes or 1 exam or 2 exam, please do let us know so that we can be able to then. There's a chair here. If you foresee that likelihood, please let us know, because one of the components of our observer process this time around as well is what's called parallel voter tabulation. And parallel voter tabulation essentially means we need to be able to track that the data that comes from we have no as a key stakeholder and partner to the IEC, we respect very much the IEC's ability to run these elections. What we are doing with the parallel voter tabulation is saying, if there are potential objections, if there are people who are saying this election was not free and fair, they can't say that stuff without data backing it up. So essentially, we will then be able to stand up with the IEC where necessary to say, the data doesn't make sense to what you're saying. Of course, on the other side, it doesn't mean that we don't have the capacity to ask the IEC to look into certain processes as well when the data doesn't match. So the IEC has the capacity and mechanisms to be able to investigate, to correct where necessary, because that's part of what elections management is about. So that's what it wasn't from this about double blind, because that's very important. Sometimes what happens if people, so I'm not saying it happened in this country, but in countries where cheating does happen, double blind system, to be the one who's dealing and handling that same information, which actually undermines sometimes the credibility of that process. You can't give the same person to deal with the same data, then how is it a double blind? But yeah, bazositshela kabanzi ngalokho, so baphalela nje email namhlanje ntambama khona uManzuza engasho ukuthi yabo Manzu angasho ukuthi ngitshele last yesterday.
kule workshop. But that's part of what we're doing, and all of this is to say that this year in particular, Yebo, highly contested, 115 political parties currently on the ballot. There's 300 and something odd that are registered as official political parties. And it's getting closer and closer to that number of 350. So this is what I get what in 2029 probably. That's the thing. Yeah, over 600, but that's for regional parties as well. That includes the list for regional parties. So Lama parties in our contest are only at municipal level. That's 600. About 350 have registered to be recognized nationally, but only 150 will appear on the ballot based on the March 8th deadline that has been indicated. So so those are some of the things that we need to be cognizant of in terms of the highly contested nature of this specific election. But another thing we need to recognize that we're 30 years into our democracy, guys. So there are teething issues that we'll start to experience. Because that's where our democracy is, that's a state of development that we're in. But what we also need to recognize is that given that we've been in a democracy where there's been a single party dominance, what that means is that we've only been led nationally by one political party. Some people say liberation movements don't make for good governance. That's for you as a voter to decide, right? Because ultimately, the ANC was initially conceived of as a liberation movement. They transitioned to the government. What the scorecard will give them in terms of their role in governance is a different issue, and it's for you as a voter to decide. But what's also important to recognize is that there are sometimes elements within those liberation movements who have transitioned to the governments that feel the power that comes with being in governance, and they don't want to let go. And so there are sometimes abuses of processes that undermine the democratic process. And so as civil society, as the Independent Electoral Commission, as other Chapter 9 institutions, it's important that we continue to be vigilant in the space of ensuring that elections ultimately represent the views of citizens in a genuine way. And so that's why that partnership and synergy is important, and that's why your role as election observers, we shouldn't take it lightly. In other countries, as you might have seen the part of this discourse over this weekend, domestic observers are something that happens. But if you look at more established democracies, domestic observers, there isn't a culture of domestic observation. But what we hope to entrench as part of our work in this process is saying that your civic participation, yes, it doesn't end at the ballot. Yes, there are other things that you need to do and enforce after the voting process. But as a citizen, you're also entitled to see how efficient or inefficient the systems are based on the voting process itself. So as an observer, you'll also have first-hand knowledge of how things are going in the voting stations, in the voting process, what it means to have a presiding officer, deputy presiding officer, the split between the type of relationships that they have as staff in that space. What it means when you have a large enough VD that you have to then have sub stations in different spaces, and how that changes the dynamic of things. And so those are a variety of things that you'll come up with and be able to witness. And we hope that you'll be able to observe in a way that's impartial, that's non-partisan. As Manzu has mentioned, all of us are drawn to a specific political party on the basis of being a citizen of this country. You will have an opportunity to cast your vote as well. I hope that you will apply for the special vote so that you can cast your vote before the 27th and 28th, or on the 27th and 28th, so that you are not occupied with needing to vote yourself when you're meant to be observing. So all of a sudden, you can still do that, but I would prefer that you not do that, so that you are just a volunteer. So that you can be able to cast your vote without needing to, court. But
that is staff of the IEC. So, what should the best begin? And then, of course, I think as an aside, that's not necessarily an election observer sort of role, but as people who come from civil society, if you're aware of constituencies that have registered, that are in good standing with the IEC, and there are impediments to them either being part of the vote because they have physical and mental disabilities. I don't think you're able to vote if you have a mental disability, and that's to be corrected because it's because you have to appreciate the gravity of the choice that you're making, in my senses. But anyways, that's an aside. So if you are aware, please help them to also do the registration for those types of votes, the special vote, where the IEC is able to visit them at their homes where the physical disability doesn't allow them the opportunity to get into that space. And then of course encourage turnout. If your niece, wife, uncle has registered but is not turning out to vote, let them know what you wanna. You're an associate of DDP. You care deeply about this democracy. You are an election observer. You care deeply about the functioning of our democracy going forward. Just turn up and vote. Whoever they vote for is not your prerogative. But if they choose to spoil their vote, at least we'll be never harm. You know. Oh wow! No, there's depending. You know. So we have young people who turn up and sometimes don't turn up, or who turn up late. We need to ensure that they know the opening and closing time of the voting station. Voting station because whatever the situation is. idea on the matter, so groove, observer, so I'm 30 years into democracy, August 7, the 7th election. August 7 this time around. It's important that after your vote, the main purpose is for you to go out and vote. Let me welcome Sis from the IEC as well. Sorry? It's definitely you. Yeah. That's an Hey, you're one of them. No, but welcome. We appreciate you turning up. So many things but with CPF of the respective communities. So there are people who care deeply about participation. As we come back to the server, Miss Benuti's in, but for your role and participation in this space. Are there any questions at this point? Inception workshop there, just to we have an observer mission. The observer mission that we're recruiting for right now. I see what we're paying wow. About there's it true. No, we say money talk on Facebook. Because we have a limited number per project. So we have a limited number of observers per donor partner that we can recruit at a time. That's the only reason why we've limited it to only these people in this room. We have an ambition of fielding and over 3,000 observer missions across the country. In the country, there are close to 24,000 voting stations. So what we want to have in this election process is at least about 10% representation of independent election observers across the country. 10% gives us about 3,000. Just below 3,000, but 3,000 sounds nice, and there's a nice ring to it. So we want to deploy that many, and that's why we're impressing upon you in helping us recruit, spread the message, but also ensuring that the people that you recruit are beyond recruit. If we associate our brands respectively with this entity and group of people, that is people who will carry the brand with the necessary care. Because as rhetoric, it changes in this election period. Oppenheimers are funding you or not funding you. So all of those things become highly sensitive. So it's important that when we bring people on board, it's people that we can trust to carry the mission forward without us having to question and so after 11:30 lunch. Yes, madam.
Greetings. Firstly, I apologize for the meeting with the district commission on weekends. But there's this thing that has been troubling me about being observing, especially directed to ISC. Because they have this policy that says that when you take a picture of that you have voted within the booth, it's unofficial. How then do you deal with someone who takes a picture of the result as an observer? Maybe if we cover that.
Yeah, we have, but I also want to say as someone who's leading the mission for DDP, I went to Victoria. You observe. You take note of 20 and that's all it is. I went to Victoria. Yes, madam.
Yeah, but from check for Tina, I know what's in the big call.
Yeah.
But he people I
wasn't thinking the meeting in Konulwazi and Lwazi probably slightly beyond the others.
No, in terms of what's about to be parts.
Oh, okay.
Siatsugo, which is so Funaband or
Great question. Mandala. Sorry, who knows what their parts? Yeah.
Okay. Again,
Yeah.
yes, I photos.
Yeah.
And Laban previously, Baba observers, they are very professional. Get a trouble never with
Yeah.
Kodwa, so about one to abiding income. How then? Asakumbonisa sivumelane nginamengana. Pewati. Mhlambi namengana no-18.
Oh, 67. That's good. That's great. Thank you. That's good.
Kodwa great people ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Malegi. Any other questions? 25 in Wazi. If you work with this school, you're covered in that 25, the list of 25 people that are in there. But please check with this school and let me know before the end of this week. If you're not a part of that list, or if you are, no, just let me know. Mabsan check in. Put the list in Yona na and trapping of Milan and I school. Sitting around our 50 next week. So at this point, it's now 25 from Miss Pingo and sort of the Durban South area. I forget which constituencies are Bali, but 25 people that are from that specific migration project. There are 9 who are facilitating 3 per ward. Now we are in Balan 9. So that's 9 people who are manned. I must also emphasize that who are manned. So that's 34 in total, short of 16. Zimena, you sent me a list of how many people yesterday? Being so big WhatsApp and telephone call. But you sent me a list of people yesterday. Tell me what say in number.
Yes, I think.
Uma dlala bheka izenzo bengicabangele elandelayo kodwa ke ngokusekhona umholi wena ucabanga ukuthi bangafinyelela abangaki abakho next week ucabanga kwakho nje just give me a rough estimate
mhlawumbe ukuthi angazi bafuthu umlinganisela abangana noma laba abangakwazi
baseduzana abasheshayo baseduzana
abalishumi
hayi awusehlisa isibalo 6 now. Okay, so let's say this 25 from Espingo, 9 from Kwamakota, those 3 wards, and then you said 6 from Dozen Hook. How many is that now? 4 Deloy. Oh, 4 Deloy. Yeah.
4 from my side, 5 now.
5 now. So that's 45. Mahlaba, then it's 5 from you. Yeah, including you.
Okay.
So 5 Zimela, 5 from Mahlaba. You see, Prof, this is all we do. You're going to quite a look at Tabile continues to be a part of all of the processes. We also join them along the way. But yeah, next week we will be in Diaconia Center from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Please, let's be on time. As I indicated, I'll send more another invite, but Sis Nokulego, Miss Manzu, we don't know if you're going to send yourselves again or if you want to deploy someone else, but you'll decide at the office. Leadership.
Yes, I've just got a bit of a challenge. I'm trying to do a provincial project meeting.
No.
Everyone. Even
All hands on deck.
on the day, they've got an event.
Hectic.
And yeah.
Since the journey is
Then we're going to slot to what time is the slot to IBC that will help.
So yeah, so from 9 to 11, 9 to 11, 2 hours range.
2 hours.
No, Trinam observers, you know, this her presentation, her presentation took like a whole hour. Just on the election timetable and some sort of preconceptions people had about the national and provincial elections.
Okay, let me confirm that in long so they are superior.
No problem, thank you so much. Yeah, so no, what was it? Yeah. Konja voting stations are April 12th.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so once we have the official voting stations on April 12th, we'll also then start to think about a deployment plan. What's in deploy Aranja? Yes, you might come from the specific community, but we don't want to have 10 observers in one voting station. It doesn't make sense. So we hope to be able to find the resources to convene after the 12th of April. If we can't convene, we'll send you an electronic copy of the deployment plan, and we hope that you can then let us know if that's okay with you, or if it's not okay with you. We'll then talk about that afterwards in terms of how we make that better for you in terms of your intention to convene. Yes, you say you have 15 people, no 6, no more. As I said, this is not the only mission that we have, or this is not the only recruitment drive that we have. This is a recruiter directly 250, but we hope to have some volunteers added to that, which will amount to about 3,000 in total, based on different partnerships with organizations that we're striking up. Cool. Thank you very much, colleagues. A group picture, please, if possible. So, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just have one question. I'm trying, no. I'm not interested in going to just some clarity to for your training and is it people that have already applied to be observers?
So Anetitina, as an organization, we accredited and we're enlisting people to be observers. Yeah.
Right. First of all, I would like us to appreciate the work that my colleague Brian has done by giving him a round of applause. Secondly, to appreciate your time and engagement with our colleagues. Tomorrow we have a public forum. Is it tomorrow?
Yes.
So
RSVPs are closed.
RSVPs are closed.
There's a spam online where you
can follow us online. So we're convening all the political parties tomorrow and talk about their manifestos.
Yeah. I just want to mention the list of parties that confirmed participation. Action SA, UDM, RISE, IFP, DA, and MK have confirmed participation. Wow. So the number supporters in the
you see, you missed it. If you didn't have SVP now, you missed the action. I'm close. But yeah, please follow us online. It filled up so quickly, we were also surprised. So, and it's also the first of the many that we're going to do between now and election. Yeah, many people have received a lot of emails today and all these kind of things. But yeah, please keep on these things because there is a hangout there for information. So they're filling up very, very fast, and unfortunately, because of budget constraints, we can only carry a certain number of people. So follow us online and engage with us and share your views with us also. And then, of course, we're looking forward to see you on the training day, which I'm really excited about that. So thank you so much, and I appreciate our colleagues from the IC. Thank you for making time. I can listen to her all day. She's a walking repository of information, isn't she? I'd like her to be around. It is colleagues like you that make us feel comfortable with the IEC, because at the moment IEC has been under serious pressure, and there's a perception outside there for those who are not knowledgeable or not able to come into contact with colleagues like you, thinking that it's a compromised, captured institution, which is wrong, because IEC is our last line of defense for democracy. And if the perception sits with the public that this institution is captured, oh my goodness, we have no hope in this country. So colleagues like you help us to continue to believe there is hope for this nation. And so on behalf of the DDP, please convey our thanks to Ms. Futi and Dr. Trongwane. This is really amazing, and thank you for coming out, because through this link of our CSO partner, we're able to take this information to say there is still hope for our nation, because people like you hold the line and remind us that the institution is still intact. Nobody, there's no Gupta there. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, Prof, the bar has been set. So,
definitely.
Leadership. So, cool. Here we go. Cool.